which is my first novel. She's a fan of mine in Greece, and she wrote to me and said, I cannot believe that this is written by you, because you are so different. And I think that one of the gifts of being unhappily married or married to the wrong man is that it sent me on a tremendous journey of self-discovery or just a quest for wisdom, I think, in whatever form it came. And I'm not a religious person, but I am incredibly spiritual, and I certainly think that whatever tools I can use to improve my life and the way I relate to people, I put in my books, and my philosophies of life, I think, absolutely do come across in my writing. And I would hope that they do. I want them to. I mean, it's certainly a goal of mine. Yes?
You have told us about how you got published. Could you tell us how you do your work, how you edit your work, how many rewrites you do, when you decide it's done?
Sure. How do I write? How do I edit? How many rewrites? Well, because I was a journalist, I think I had wonderful training, because when you are a journalist on a national newspaper and you have an editor standing over your desk every day saying, Jane, we need 1,500 words on this in an hour, you don't have the luxury of saying, I'm so sorry, I have writer's block today. I'm not inspired. You just have to do it. And so I just do it. When I finished writing, when I finished and I put the whole book together, I go back and reread it once, and I look for rhythm. I look for repetition, but for me it's about the rhythm, and the rhythm of the sentences and the rhythm of the words, and if something feels clunky or off, I will then change it. And that really, I'm not a huge fan of rewriting. I think you can keep going and going and going and going and never be happy. And every time I hand a book in, I think it's a piece of garbage. And until it's validated by one of my editors, I think that this is the book that's going to send my career crashing down. That the last 10 best-selling novels have been sheer fluke, and people will now realize that I'm a fraud. And one of my agents is convinced that this is part of the creative process, and he says every time, I mean, he handles some huge people, and he says every time an author comes to him and says, this is my best ever, he knows it's all over. I mean, it's always the worst. So I think it's probably a good thing. But I also know I cannot possibly judge my own work. A lot of writers that I meet, or aspiring writers who don't have publishing deals, take on freelance editors and give their books to all their friends and their family. And the thing is, it's so subjective, and everybody has a different opinion, and you could just write yourself into your grave. So, I think, well, you find one person, and preferably your editor at your publisher, who you trust implicitly, and you work with them. And so, once I've done my read-through and tweaked it, I give it to my editor, and she will then come back. And usually it's small things throughout. She might say, this character this character needs building, we need to see more of them, or whatever it is, and I'll go back and do that. And then it's just incredibly tedious. It's copy editing and reading it over and over and over again and checking for mistakes. And I have always had my books published in England first. I've worked with my team in England for 12 years, 13 years actually, and I trust them, and they're wonderful. They pick up on everything. Second Chance was the first book to be published in America first, and it was edited by someone I'd never worked with before, and the mistakes in that book are extraordinary. I get emails almost daily from people saying, do you know that on page So, I have to rely on other people, because it's like going into your closet and looking for something, and sometimes it's right in front of you, but you need another person's eyes to see it. I need somebody else's eyes. Yes?
The discipline of the Westbrook library, is it the amount of words or what you're doing, or developing characters, or it varies?
The discipline that I give myself is the amount of words. And, sometimes I can get there and I have my coffee and I sit there in front of a blank computer screen and I think, I can't be bothered. Or I think, I don't know what to write. I don't know what to write. And the discipline keeps me sitting in that chair and keeps me writing, even if I don't know what to write. I just keep writing until I have my words. I can't tell you that. I could tell you, but then I'd have to kill you. It's a frightening number, and really, whenever I do tell people, which I don't very often, but sometimes other writers ask me, and I tell them, and they go, and it's because I was a journalist, because I'm used to writing, a couple of thousand words a day, that it's not that difficult for me. Actually, the other interesting thing about blogging is that it gets me in the habit of writing every day, which is a wonderful thing, because I don't write every day. I write in 2-week spurts, and blogging requires me to write every day. Yeah.
And would you, I'm sorry, but
It's okay.
would you feel like you just have to get out of the way and the words come in rather than searching? The best comes when it's coming just through you.
Yeah, I mean, that is what I call being in the zone, when the books almost write themselves, and it's the best feeling in the whole world. And not all writing is like that. A lot of the time, when it is, it's wonderful, but a lot of the time it's not. And you just have to write anyway, and wait. Because often, writing as if, acting as if will bring the words. Yeah. Yes.
Now that some of your books, like Canaan is becoming a movie, are you at all worried about the integrity of the book being a script? Because we always say the book's better than the movie. Are you worried about that?
Well, many years ago, actually before Jemima J came out, it was just after Hugh Grant had, I shouldn't tell you this story, but I'm going to, just after Hugh Grant had been caught doing, unsavory things with Miss Divine Brown, and Elizabeth Hurley, who was his girlfriend, had a film production company, and she got hold of an unpublished of an advanced copy of Jemima J. And all of a sudden I got this phone call saying Elizabeth Hurley wants to buy Jemima J. She wants it to be Hugh Grant's comeback vehicle, and he's going to be Ben Williams, and it's going to change so that the focus is much more about Ben than Jemima, but it's going to be wonderful to do. And I thought, oh, they can't possibly do that. They couldn't do this. Is about Jemima, it's not about Ben. And I also suffered from what I now call first novel syndrome, which is when you get a tremendous amount of attention for your first novel and you think you're very important and worth lots and lots of money. You realise very quickly that you're not. But I thought, well, if Elizabeth Hurley is offering this, then other people will surely offer me much, much more. Anyway, best offer I've had. I turned them down. Have regretted it ever since. And my philosophy now would be just take the money and run. Yes.
Do you know the ending of your stories before you write them? Like, do you know do you have an outline in your head of
Yeah.
where it's going?
Do I have an ending before I write them? I usually have the beginning and the end, but I'm never tied to it because so often the ending isn't what I think it's going to be, and characters who I think will be minor turn out to be major and vice versa. And actually the Beach House is a perfect example. There's one storyline and the twist, and I can't give it away, but it was never supposed to happen. It wasn't at all what I had planned. Actually, Nan, poor old Nan, was going to pop her clogs by the end. We were going to have a great big funeral, and then it just didn't happen that way. So you don't actually know. I would love to sign some books, and thank you so much to all of you.